guys, welcome back to the prep series. 12-week out vlog coming at you. I'm just sitting down with my first meal. I chose the clips that I chose to show you guys, or that you're seeing now, for a reason. I've just been kind of reflecting this whole time on how important my routine has been and how important the idea of staying in a really good schedule and how conducive it can be to your mind, your body, everything. So my prep last year was pretty chaotic. I moved multiple times throughout the prep. I made my big move from New Jersey down to Florida at like 7 weeks out from the show. And then once I got down here and I was settled in the house that I'm currently living in, I never really got in a great bodybuilding schedule. And there's no excuse for it. I'm the only one to blame for that. But I think especially in terms of the morning, when you're doing your cardio, going to bed early, those things were all pretty volatile in terms of timing. I was doing some cardio post-workout. I would do some in the morning. But, I didn't love driving all the way up to the gym that I was going to. It was 20 or 25 minutes away. And, looking back, it's just a laziness, but it's also a lack of preparation within my routine. So this year, starting even in my pre-prep cruise phase, I started this routine. And thinking about it, I started this routine with my fiance Kelsey going to bed at a great time, and because of that I just naturally kind of wake up early. I started that way back in the off season, and that helped me back then, being able to get all my food in at a good time, starting the day productive, and it carried over pre-prep cruise. And then I'm basically 10 or 11 weeks into my prep, and it's just continued to be exactly the same thing every day, and I think that's really important. So I get up early naturally because I was in bed early. I feel rested, and I think that there is something to the idea of going to bed earlier and getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep versus staying up until 2 in the morning and getting that same amount of time. I feel so much more rested and restored the following day if those same 6 to 8 hours happened earlier in the night and earlier in the morning in terms of my wake time. So you guys saw the routine. I get up, I weigh myself. If it's a check-in day, I do fasted check-ins, posing. If not, I'll usually wait until I pose until after meal one to pose, to kind of simulate the circumstance in which I'd be going on stage. I don't like post-workout posing like a lot of people do, because it's just going to teach you bad habits in terms of being shaky, exhausted, probably overly pumped. But I start my day, after that I go out and I get a walk, and I get the sunlight in my eyes. And I think that's a huge thing to just set up your whole circadian rhythm in terms of falling asleep early, being in a good schedule, all that. So, in contest prep, whether you're a research person or not, they've shown, I should say, in dieting, weight loss, fat loss phases, over and over again, they show in research that the more you sleep and the better you sleep, the more your weight loss is biased towards actual fat loss and not muscle tissue. So to me, in contest prep, there's never a time that's more important for getting good sleep than contest prep. So you can do everything else, you can nail all the other aspects of your plan, but if your sleep schedule is terrible, you are leaving muscle retention or muscle on the table in terms of your final look. So to start this video, I just really wanted to talk about the importance of staying in a good groove and keeping that consistency and having these non-negotiables with yourself, that this is the time that I get up, this is how I start my morning, this is when I go do my cardio, this is when I train or pose. So those things have been huge for me, and I think to most competitive bodybuilders, it's something we've all just intuitively done and fall into, and we realize how much it helps. But for anyone that's new or maybe done things differently, I think it will go a long way in terms of helping you manage and successfully get through contest prep. I'm back. I just finished up my last meal for the day. And normally, what I would do, what I've done every single night since contest prep started, was I would put on my weighted vest and I would go for a walk to finish up my daily step total. Today was a check-in day with my coach, Justin. He got back to me like or like later in the morning or like early afternoon. So I'd already done my cardio for the day, and at the time it was 30 minutes. And so he got back to me and adjusted the plan a little bit. I'll put what the new diet is up here. And part of the changes was that he increased cardio from 30 to 40 minutes. So what I did was today, as like a one-off thing, I got all my steps done much earlier in the day. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back out on the Stairmaster and finish that time that he added. So besides the update to the diet, he increased clen from 60 micrograms to 80 micrograms. And we're going to go from there. It's a decent little drop in the food, good bump in output in terms of cardio. The clen always, even a small increase like 20 micrograms added, I always get a good response from that. I'm pretty sensitive to stimulants, so all of that should bring quite a bit of change. He's got me checking in like 3 or 4 days from now again. So we'll see what that brings. Training wise, I had a chest and shoulder workout today, chest, shoulders, and some tries. And so you guys will see the clips, but this is probably the most oddball workout of the week that I do. So I've talked about it. I'm back to the bro split. In my last video, I mentioned that I was discontinuing upper lower, and someone actually mentioned that I didn't talk about what I'm doing split wise. So I'm keeping 2 leg days. I liked that aspect of doing upper lower. I'm keeping the 2 leg days. I'm doing 5 set training days. And so then the other 3 training days are back and rear delts. I have a standalone arm day. And then this day is basically chest, shoulders, and some tries. And so what's odd or what's different about this is that I have to train my chest and even my shoulders in terms of pressing way differently than anything else, way differently than what I would recommend anyone do. So it's been probably, I guess that was 2015. So yeah, like basically 10 years ago, I had a pec tear, pretty nasty pec tear, and I never got surgery done on it. I kind of just stubbornly rehabbed it myself. And so because of that, when I'm getting leaner and I start to lose leverages in terms of like my body weight and just retaining fluid within the joints and around the tendons, I completely lose my ability to like stabilize and safely attack progressive overload in terms of any chest movements, whether it's flies or presses. And it's always been super frustrating, and I've really, like, I'm a logbook progressive overload or progressive stimulus type person. And so, and I can be a control freak, I think, like a lot of us. So being that this is kind of out of my control, in prior contest preps, this really would get under my skin and it would really just bug me. And this year I just have decided to just let it go, and I'm just going to train and do whatever I can to try to create some stimulus and get some blood to the muscle. And that just is what it is. So, you know, most body parts I would do kind of moderate volume, heavy to, you know, heavy weights that land me somewhere failing in terms of like 8 to 12 reps. I just can't do that safely without it feeling like something is going to tear, especially when it comes to training any type of chest movement or even like an overhead press, because the tendon on this side, the pec tendon, it kind of attaches to the bicep too. I feel it there. It just feels super, super vulnerable when I get to a certain point, and I'm at that point now apparently. So, I kind of am just winging it. I'm kind of training, to steal a Tommy Styles phrase. I'm kind of winging it and training like a 90s bodybuilder, and I'm just chasing the pump, and I'm just doing what feels good, what feels safe, what I can do. So it's a lot of higher rep sets. It's pretty much a drop set to finish every exercise. It's a lot more volume because, if you think about this pendulum or the scale where it's like, the higher intensity is, the lower volume has to be. Well, I'm kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum in terms of training my chest, where within one singular straight set, I'm not able to safely generate that high of a level of intensity. So then it makes sense to me that I would have to make up for that with more volume. And so most things are 3, 4, even 5 sets, and then a drop set on the last set. And so that's what you guys will see. So this push day, I guess you could call it, I'm doing a lateral variation, like a cable lateral raise. I don't think I filmed that. And then to start chest, I'm doing something that just feels super safe. This is kind of like a fly slash press combination movement that's just with like a high cable, and I'm trying to basically simulate like a decline press or fly. And man, I'm doing like 4 or 5 sets on this, and then a drop set on the last set. I'll go over it. I use this Strive chest press, and I have it set to where it's pretty close to like a flat angle in terms of where I adjust the seat. And then in terms of the loading, so there's like 9 different settings that you can adjust it to. And I have it at setting 8, meaning it's basically as shortened loaded as possible, meaning it's heaviest up at the top. And that's where I feel safest. I feel very vulnerable and things feel pretty dangerous if there's any type of loading when I'm in a full stretch. That was where the original pec tear happened. I was barbell benching, and at the time I was doing high frequency. I was trying to bring my chest up. I can remember I was training chest 3 times a week, heavy presses all 3 days of the week with different movements. I was barbell benching, and I came down, and there was like a Velcro noise, and the whole thing just like kind of ripped across. And so when I'm down here, it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of like safety to have it loaded here. So I mostly have the load up at the top. So I'm able to generate some level of intensity, and I am able to take sets to failure, but I don't feel like they're quite as dangerous because the loading is mostly happening in a place that I feel safe. I do an overhead press, and I've talked about this before. I mostly kept this in just for shoulder stability, more so than actually growing my front delts. My front delts could never be big enough. Everything needs to be bigger. But I have noticed if I'm only doing laterals for shoulders, I really lose like overhead shoulder stability, which carries over a lot to posing front double or back double bicep. So with that Strive press, I think I did 3 or 4 sets on the chest press with a drop set at the end. I think I did just 1 top set of the overhead press, but I did a drop set on that as well. And then I'm going to do seated laterals, 3 or 4 sets, drop set to finish. I did some triceps, and I think I did 1 just big set. It was like 1 top set and then 3 or 4 drop sets after. And then I think I finished with rear delts, and I don't think I filmed that. So just really just chasing a pump. And I track a couple of the things. I think I was tracking the 2 presses in terms of what the performance are, or what the performance was. But other than that, I'm kind of just going in and having fun and kind of winging it. Now, again, I wouldn't recommend this for anyone that's healthy and able to train in like an intense, progressive manner. I do that style of training with all the other body parts and all the other days of the week, even arms. But this is just a different type of session. So in terms of the X's and O's, or where I'm at, I still feel great. I still, other than being like lean enough to where that this pec and shoulder have lost that level of like off season stability, training all my other body parts, or just in general, the desire to go to the gym is still as though I'm in the off season, which is great. I feel great. I noticed the last couple of weeks, or the last week or so, when I have that last meal, or when I'm out for my walk after my final meal, I'm starting to feel tired, like I'm ready for bed. But other than that, my energy during the day is high, and especially the first half of like the morning or early afternoon. Cognitively, I'm really really locked in, and that carries over to when I go train. So, man, no complaints. Even seeing that cardio went from 30 to 40 minutes, which is a more aggressive jump than what Compton has done in the past. Normally he'll go in like 5 minute increments. So I thought the next change might be from 30 to 35 minutes. He went from 30 to 40, and I didn't even flinch at it. I'm just excited to see what type of change that creates, because over the last week or two, I've gotten leaner, but I feel as though the visual change has just been slow. There hasn't really been anything drastic. I've kind of hung around the same body weight. And so now I know that this is going to bring quite a bit of change. So I'm excited. Like I said, I'm enjoying the whole process. There's really no prep feels just yet, which is cool. I haven't been this far into a diet and not really felt it yet. Like I commented to Kelsey earlier that I can see things on my body and feel things on my body that are lean enough that would typically correlate with feeling run down or exhausted, and I just don't feel that way. So yeah, that's the big update at 12 weeks out. That's everything, guys. So yeah, thanks for everybody that's followed along, left comments, or sent me messages about it. Big level of appreciation and gratitude to everyone that's been following what I've been doing on this same channel with all the podcast episodes. I've been trying to just pump them out and make that something that I'm more consistent with, because I really wanted to make it a point, this prep in general, and this whole year in general. It was something I discussed with Kelsey at the start of the new year, was that I wanted to be more consistent on social media. And just like with bodybuilding or anything else that's worth doing in real life, you're not always going to want to do it, but it's a matter of showing up and doing it even when you don't want to. And that's kind of been my Achilles heel with social media. I'll be consistent with it when I feel like it, and then there's times I don't feel like it and I don't follow through with it. So been trying to make it a point to be more consistent there. So thanks to everybody that's checked that out. Thanks to everybody that's checked out the series and followed along. I'll see you guys next time.